Hi, everyone. Welcome back to part 2 of our discussion on why is it that we are losing the younger generation from the Christian community, from the church. Last time when we spoke, when we met with representatives of the young adults and adolescent youth among us, and they shared their heart with us, they shared their experiences, and we were certainly enlightened. And we gained knowledge and insight that we really didn't have before. Today, we are taking it a step further. We are now going to be looking at another perspective of this issue. And so today, having heard from our youth, we want to now look at some of the challenges as it regards the older generation. What it is that the older generation is struggling with, and how it is that we can, as the younger generation asked and required of us last discussion, how we can come together and meet at the table and discuss as one so that we can all continue to develop in this community of believers. Now, joining us today is a lady that wears several hats. Miss Patricia Donald-Phillips. She is a social and behavioral change communication consultant with gender and development specialization. She believes that women and men, boys and girls, have equal value and abilities as leaders and should have the same opportunities for development to play their part in producing healthy families, communities, institutions, and nations. Among her several achievements, Ms. Phillips also has earned a degree in theology, is a guidance counselor, and is involved in parental training in several communities. Mrs. Phillips, welcome, and thank you for joining us today on Real Talk.
You're most welcome, and it is my privilege, it is my honor to be here, and I want to rush in and to say how impressed I am, and I want to congratulate, make sure I get your name right, the new Ebenezer Tabernacle Apostolic Church, NETA, for this amazing program and this initiative.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Ms. Phillips, I am also delighted to have you with us today because you bring such a wealth of knowledge, and experience based on your professional and theological background. You bring such a wealth of knowledge and experience to the discussion. And so you have heard the youth. You heard what they had to say, what their concerns are. Based on what you have heard and on your own experience, is the younger generation an endangered species in the church?
I will start out by saying, based on what I just observed with the young people who were in that conversation, they may, yes, indeed be endangered, but they are an absolutely safe space. Wow. They are a safe hope for not just the church, but for Jamaica as a nation and for the planet, of which we are told in the National Pledge that Jamaica is the nation that will be reaching out to the world. If you look carefully at our pledge. Yes. So I will begin by acknowledging that, yes, our youth do seem to be under threat. In preparation for this conversation, I did a little homework. And I want to thank you for that, because the homework helped to keep me going fresh, keep my mind active.
Nice.
And I was fascinated to learn that according to a national youth policy we have, Jamaica has a national youth policy, that there are about, I counted up to 12 different types of youth that people that populate this nation. And they have some very interesting categories that I don't know if as church we've really taken into account as we seek to minister to them.
Wow.
They start out with the interestingly enough, the disabled youth and youth who are mentally and physically challenged. So they're looking a lot at the vulnerable youth. They have the incarcerated youth, the one them in a prison and the remand centers, that their freedom is confined, thank God, by the law. 3, the inner city youth in the ghettos. Not such a nice word to use. We say inner city, so I guess you and me must say outer city. No. The garrisons. These are the extremely troubled communities where, there's a don who rules, or a head man, and maybe a head woman too, we don't even know. Then 4, we have the in-school youth. Thank God, those who are enrolled in some institution or other. We have the institutionalized youth. These are the ones now in places of safety. So not the prison or the lockup. The places of safety, the children's homes, and they are wards of the state. So their parents, their guardians are us, the nation. Then you have the outer school youth, them done school, but them not doing a thing. No studies, no learning not going on, and no work either. Then we have the street youth. Interesting enough, you talk about street people. On the way here, we saw 1 or 2 persons on the streets, and we said, Lord, the church have enough work. But amongst those, we have the young people between the 15 and 24 years old, and the kiddies, or the ones that technically are youngsters, which is up to 17 years old. And so within that spectrum, we have some more, the unattached. Interestingly now, those with no affiliation, they don't belong to no youth group, no nothing. Them just out there. Then we have and these are different to the out of school youth because these are past the school age. So, but them not attached to anything. Then you have the urban and rural. Country experience different from town experience and body area town different from body area country. So these now, they are often working, in the informal sector, so them are hustle. Modern times now, scamming, as you think about the hustling, the scamming. And then we have the youth who we call them at promise. You have at-risk youth. And you have at promise. Learn a new term, my friend.
It's new for me too.
Youth at promise. Because if you're at risk, you can be at promise, I guess. And these are definitely those who are opposite to the at-risk ones. And then, of course, the last group is the youth at risk. These are vulnerable. And I was so impressed when I heard in the young people's conversation, someone use the term vulnerable. So it is easier for them to get caught up and damaged and destroyed by circumstances that are anti a good lifestyle. So when you look at all of them categories there, and when we look at the population of our churches, yes, they're quite endangered.
So how important do you think it is for the church to be aware of the different, because each category carries a different set of needs?
Absolutely. A different set of needs, a different set of weaknesses, a different set of strengths as well. There's an interesting leadership guru that I benefit from called John C. Maxwell. He talks about the Pareto principle, 20-80%. He says 80% of your results and the good things in your institution or your life comes from only 20% of your activity and results. So even in them bad pitney,
there is good.
Them trouble pitney, there are strengths for the church to harness. So you were asking before I jumped off.
I was asking you we know it is very important for the church because we provide service to the community. But then if we are not aware of the different needs and categories, then how can we provide impactful service or service that is relevant? So how important is it for the church to be aware of?
Very, very important, because I said, just even doing this preparation here, I was saying, oh my gosh, when I was a young minister in my 20s, I was ordained when I was 22. I'm now 63 years old. I was in charge of youth ministry in my little parish area. We never know about all them different things. No, we only see the nice young people that come to church, and sometimes them drop off, sometimes they come. Didn't know that there was a whole population that we were not even touching. And when we look at the fact that as church, we are called to minister not just to the spiritual, but the emotional and the psychological needs. Yes, it's very important, which is why I'm saying it again. I am so impressed, and I want to congratulate your program for this project, because this is showing that you're not just looking about your own needs, you're looking about serving the needs of others. And I remember a bishop of ours saying, I'm an Anglican, that the church is the one institution that exists to serve those who are not members.
Yes. Good point.
Not true?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, Jesus told us to go out.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So we are making disciples. Yes, you want people to come in, but we also exist to serve those who are not necessarily a part of us. So yes, very endangered indeed. And I just had wanted to also pop into this, that just checking out in terms of who we are touching as church. I was intrigued that the 2011 census tells us that 26% of our population, it's about a third, are from the Church of God and its various communities, and your group would fall under that umbrella. So you are the largest actually group when you put everybody together, even if you're not in the same church. While the Adventists come with 12%, the Pentecostals 11%, the Baptists 7%. Way down, I'm Anglican, we're only 3%. The Tabernacle them, although we were brought here to really look after the planters and those who were running things. And then, interestingly enough, you have just a little 8% of all sorts of people pushed together: United Brethren, Moravian, Mormon, Muslim, and non-Christians. So your ministry here is especially significant and has to be strategic, because you're talking about 26% of the Jamaican population from 2011. That's about over 10 years ago that, you know. So you can imagine how much more now. The capacity you have and the power of your potential reach. Which is why programs such as this is so important. Absolutely. And because they say that, like, about 30 odd percent, about 33% in 2014 are categorized as children or youth, because you know, up to 18, up to 17 is still child, even though we are told that up to age 29 is what the United States report on our part of the world says youth from 15 to 29. So that's just to give us a sense of the amazing harvest and the potential, and why this program is so important. And the harvest is so ripe, as Jesus said. But we need laborers. Yes. We need laborers. Yes, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. An important need, I think, even as you were saying, you know, how important is it for our churches to be aware, is to recognize some of the wider context in which our youth are emerging and growing. And it's not just about the homes in which they live. It's not just whether, you know, there is mommy and daddy or granny or growy or we just let loose. Is that there is a bigger context. The young people spoke about how tough it was to be Christian. Well, I'm saying it is tough to be a human being. It's tough to be a young person between age 0 and 29 within Jamaica. Because we're dealing with a whole heap of things. Yes, and when you add to that the Christian context now, it makes it even, it's like doubly difficult. Is that a term? Doubly. Yes. If I can coin a phrase. Yes, man. COVID teaches the term differently difficult. Yes. Yes. Right. Differently difficult. And we would have heard our young people speaking to the fact that the older generation is kind of clueless. Yes. We really, a lot of us really do not understand. We don't get it. Yes, there was a phrase that one used that I really loved. I mean, I learned so much from them. There's a phrase where the person said, until you find the right people and can find a bonus family inside of this thing called church, which is one little toops, just a little toops of the bigger picture, but a little toops with power. With power, because Jesus only had the 12 and then they dropped down to 11. Oh my God. Yeah. And now we have millions worldwide. So yes, it no matter that we're a little bit, but we have impact and we have power. We do. As adults, though, as you say, there's a lot now for us to unpack and plow through, and then to look at how now can we be of help to these young people
Yes.
who are actually telling us that they need us.
That's what they said.
They want us.
Did you hear that? I was like, wow.
They didn't just
They're
dismiss
not saying
us.
we're irrelevant.
No. They want
They
us.
want
So that's the
us.
first thing I would want us as adults to hear, that we are wanted.
Yes.
We are needed, and therefore that's an awesome starting point.
Yes,
The
it
other
is.
critical thing was one of the, I think several of your young people spoke about the need to be allowed to participate.
Yes.
May I draw for another book here, so
Go
upon
ahead.
you.
Let
This
me hear.
is the rights and responsibilities.
Oh, I have one of those.
You have one of these,
Yes, I
a
do.
guide for
Very
parents,
good, very good
based
book.
on the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. Make a wet my mouth. I'm so excited. This is and so important for our parents,
Yes.
our guardians, our children to be, our young people to be aware. There's actually an agreement worldwide of what should be the standards in place to ensure that our young people get the best that our country has to
Yes,
offer them, that
yes.
our church has to offer. And inside of these rights and responsibilities, there are 54 different things, but they're divided into different categories.
Categories,
And one of the
right.
categories speaks about participation rights. I love this when I heard the young person saying, we want to be included.
Right.
The participation right says, these promote the child's right to opinions and views, allowing them to express themselves and to have a say in matters that affect their lives.
Yes.
And this includes the right to play an active part in society at large. So, and church is a part of society.
Exactly.
So being included, not just when the program done develop, not just when the ideas have been set,
But in putting the policy together.
from the very beginning.
Yes.
Even though the young person in the earlier conversation said that the adult tend to have the final say, but they are to be included.
Yes, it is. Yes.
But to include them, you have to listen.
you have to,
Lord.
exactly.
As a parent, I can tell you that's hard.
Yeah, that's hard.
Because while they are talking, my brain done gone ahead.
Yes, and formulating the answer already, which is really not active listening.
No.
And
no.
you would have heard one of our young people saying they recognize that.
Yes. So
It frustrates them.
and them done gone to the end of the conversation already to by saying
because like all
these
right,
people are
this
not
is
really
a waste
here.
of our time
Yes.
here.
But
They're not
we
hearing
want
us.
to be building that bonus family
Yes.
that somebody spoke of.
Yes.
We want to be building up a team of people inside of our church who will say, yes, I want to learn.
Yeah.
I want to be that person. I want to be that mentor. I
Yes.
think the term we use in religious jargon is that discipler.
Right.
The one who will disciple this child, this young person. And no, it's a privilege. It's a privilege.
It is.
But there are certain conditions I have to meet. I have to humble myself. For humble myself,
Yeah.
I know some I have to learn.
And be willing to learn. The thought
Yes,
came to my mind.
yes.
And learn from the younger generation.
Learn
too.
from the young, not
because
just
we
the
don't know
books.
their things.
Learn.
I mean, even
Yes.
and this is a funny example, but even with the devices, with my phone and so on.
Yes.
That is a simple example of how not so knowing. I don't want to say
The
ignorant.
dinosaurs.
our generation
Yes,
is.
yes.
And we have to learn from
Yes.
them to be able to relate to
Yes.
and serve them.
Yes.
And so that is definitely
Yes,
important.
definitely. So I had 3 L's here, the listening, the learning, and being intentional
Yeah.
about learning, telling ourselves that I will do this, I want to do this, help me, do God, do Holy Spirit, help me to learn. And the other one was the leadership. And inside of the learning, learning from them, because we're listening, we're making the time, and learning from the books.
Yeah.
No, some of we can read and write, and that is the truth, but that's how pastors come in. So pastors and leaders, we have enough responsibility to filter all of this heavy academic stuff
Yes.
into sermons, into
Yes,
Bible studies,
yes.
into fellowship group
Yes.
meetings, into prayer meetings,
Yes.
so that our people can know that our young people are coming through us, through a generation of a history that people dare to say started with slavery. Our young people are coming into this space
Yes.
where the identity is just not there.
Confusing. Yes.
Confusing.
Yes.
So it's not just about sexuality and whether you are gay or whether you're straight. It's also who am I? As
Who am
the
I
young
as
man
a-
said, as a
yes,
man, he
as
said
a
as a black man, who am I? Who am I as a black woman? a young woman.
Yes.
Who am I as a young person where my family don't have no money?
Right.
The adults don't have no jobs. And the value system, God help it. So the very principles on which you are to live, it's so confusing. I'm growing up in a setting where violence and crime is the order of the day, where the big people in my house are fight one another. People are being raped, and it's a norm.
Yes.
I live in a home where money is no big thing, because remember, the church ministers not just to the poor and dispossessed. We minister to rich people too, who are poor in values and poor in love and time for their families. So I'm in a home where helpers do all the work. I don't have to take no responsibility to spread my bed.
Right.
I see people of a certain color being bossed about. Them have to come in through the back door. Them can't use the plate where we use. That doesn't help me to be connected to person. I am never taking the bus to school. I don't know what it is to have to jostle with downtown or in a Mobius Square. So as leaders, a part of our learning is to be able to understand these issues for ourselves and then to take time and put it out inside of the sermon, in the Bible study, and to help our young people to work out, who am I?
Yes.
Who can I become? Who am I in God? Because I'm created in the image of God.
Yes.
And now when you're in church, who hasn't had the chance to understand this for ourselves? When as church, we see things in a very narrow spiritual lens.
Yes.
Young people spoke about that.
They spoke about that.
They want spirituality to I'm going to use one big word now, for ramify, to be running right through every aspect of life. From that boy or girl that I see that my skin catch a fire when I see them. And I can't even hear what pastor say, because Lord, she looks so good and him looks so awesome. To when I go home, what am I going to eat? Or when I go home, there's somebody coming into my bedroom at night.
Oh God,
Yeah. Or I am being given a gun. So we need to begin to understand, one, we have to listen, as you say,
to
the young people. And say, we have to listen to our history. And we have to learn. And then now we have the challenges, how on earth we're going to filter it and apply it. But we can.
We can, yes.
We can. We absolutely can. Your program is helping us to do it.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Tell me something. You just said we need to learn, and we can.
Yes.
Do you think there is a willingness to learn? Do you think generally Christian parents, church leaders, are we set in our ways, or do we really want to learn?
So you know why that's a hard question? Because, and as a teacher, generalizations are such a trap. Because remember, me don't quote one big census will tell you this. You have about over 100 churches, and even though you can categorize us into
from your professional experience, having to deal with parents, what do you glean? Do you get a sense generally of the older generation being willing to learn?
And again, my brain automatically goes into categories and groups.
Okay.
So the question really is, when you look at the demography of your congregation, because they say like minds attract.
Yes,
yeah,
that's true.
And it's a water find it one level. So you need to really look at the type of people who come at your church and to say, so are these older heads, them over 60, most of them in them 50s and 60s, because age going determined to how people think. Are these people who are radical people? Are these people who know them history and them background? Are these people who waiting to get a visa for go foreign? Are these people who are invested in Jamaica? Are these middle class people? Are these mostly from poor communities? Because all of these things are getting into whether I'm open to learning. Are these people who are, sort of tapanarus, well set, life is going fine, they're used to ordering people around? Or are these people who tend to be servers and serving? So each group are going to have a pocket of persons who are open to learning and a pocket who are not. And it also depends on what they are to be learning. So if it is to create a space for young people so that we can transform these young people's lives, the question would be towards what end? So if you're it's like with slavery, if you're going to transform people and that transformation going to make them rebel against you and take away your power, then you don't really want them to transform.
Right.
So there will be persons within the congregation who want to listen and want to learn, but do they have an investment into the positions that they have, the ideas they have, that they would not want the young people to take away from them.
To take away from them, yes.
So I tend to be a very radical person who tends to want to listen, who want to operate. Them have a type of leadership, what them call it. I think transformational leadership.
Yes.
You're anxious to lose your work. You're anxious for somebody else come do it.
To become empowered.
So I tend to find people around me, whether in my church or so, who want to listen and learn. But if I step back, there's one whole gang of people who do not want to.
Yeah.
So the tendency, the knee-jerk is to say that most people do not want to. But I would challenge that and say it depends on what is you have to take, you have to do the homework to know who are the people that will come to your church.
Yes, yes. And so it's a congregation by congregation basis.
Yes, it's customizing where you have to make the frock to fit the body.
And so leadership again comes to play here.
Yes.
Because the leader has to be able to assess the mix in the congregation, and then tailor whatever is offered towards bringing up even the what you would call it, what's that term, when the undecided,
the people that are on the fence and the uncommitted, the lukewarm, yes, and that's a lot of work.
It is, but if that is not done, I'm trying to see how we would get the end result that we would desire in the youth. Yes. Because when we look at scripture, it is the older generation that is to pour into the younger
Although Jesus died when he was younger than my youngest child. My oldest son is 35. Jesus passed, if we were to take the history, at about 33. So Jesus would be just on the edge of youth.
Yes.
And I suspect that his little army, his little crew, his little gang
would have been peers.
Would have been young peers.
Yes.
So they would have been 20s and 30s and stuff. Yeah, think about it that way.
That's a good perspective.
Them draw them with beard and things, so they look old.
Yeah.
But if you take off the beard, they were youngsters. They were youngsters.
Coming with a radical message.
And they really were about trying to overthrow the Romans who were ruling. They were the imperial power at the time in the
traditional norms that existed too.
Yes, so, and remember they had to be strong, so young, because they were pulling fisher boat and thing and stuff. And even the rich ones, remember there was a rich young ruler who came to Jesus, and he went away sad because Jesus go tell him about him, I forgot to sell everything we have. Oh, Jesus had so. Jesus was just a try the fella, not just a test him. He never really wanted to get rid of everything. So it's, that one I think is a little challenging. I really like to take the hard route of saying it takes time to get to know the people in the space, and not just assume that because a person is over 40 or over 50 that they're going to be resistant. I remember, we had a person, hopefully very few Anglicans watch this program, but we had a lady in our church, a very high, well-positioned person. When she passed, one of the comments was, thank God she will stop quarreling when the children are making up things, or when they are clap, or when the baby them are make noise. So that tends to be the sort of stereotype.
Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah, that's we're not so receptive
to the younger.
Yes. So I would say get to know the people who make up the congregation. They may not be as resistant as we may think, although the knee jerk is the older the people them, the less them want, and them not like the music, and them can't ban the phone, them not like the social media. Well, my husband who is 71. From him call the music, idiot music. So say him is definitely one of those. And yet, some of his good friends are younger people. But in preparing to come to this conversation, I said to him, how many people you know who in them 20s?
Very few.
Yeah. And I stopped to think. And I nearly never came because I said I'm not qualified. Because there must be two. I was only two. And the one I thought was still about 29, she turned 30 the other day.
Wow.
So that again says something to us as
Yes,
leaders.
and we heard it coming from the young people where they're saying the divide.
The divide and the
And
relationships.
the distance is there, and so there's not an embracing.
Yeah. And if you don't have children in that age group, and the children tend to want to individuate, another fancy word. They want to separate. Again, I had a friend this morning complaining bitterly how, imagine, she had this picture how our daughter, who is in her 30s, her 40s, going to be expanding the property, and them are going to live. I said, no, me had that big dream too. My son wife just tell me, say, she don't want to live there, so.
Right.
Me say myself as the
Moving
grandmother,
out.
no, me I go look after the grandpicnic. No, they have to split.
Yes.
So sometimes they have to actually be resistant to us. And we, it's like by default, we have to be blocking certain things in order to maintain certain standards. So sometimes it's almost as if we're fighting against what nature creates.
Yes, yes.
Which is a separation, an impatience, and wanting to align.
And we would have heard them speaking about the fact that their life choices and their way of thinking is so far different.
So far different.
From ours.
Well, I tell you, I nearly fall over when I'm a good Christian lady. Me tell him, I used to be a pastor. When my son one day said to me that my definition of girlfriend don't match with his.
Oh, wow.
Girlfriend is not somebody you have sex. You have sex with. That's just a friend. I nearly faint because I said, so what was all this teaching? What was all? I nearly fainted.
Their thinking is so far
So somebody you have
different.
sex with, if you're not in a ongoing thing, it's just a friend.
It's just a friend.
Yes, because sex now
I
becomes
think they
just
have a
another
term,
activity.
Friend with benefits. I don't know if that is still relevant.
So that was just like another activity that you do in your socializing and getting to know people.
And imagine now, using this very example,
Yeah.
a member of the older generation trying to guide the younger, but not
Yes.
understanding
Yes.
these concepts.
That is not your girlfriend, even though
But then how relevant would we be to those situations when we don't even understand?
Totally irrelevant. But here's the thing to know. Here's the joke. I nearly pop up when one of your young people say, "Oh, someone we did better than them."
And it's true.
Because I have to coach this in very careful terms. You know, when you write book and you say anything you read in the book, it not relate to nobody.
Yes.
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink.
So there's somebody I know who had a child at say age 17, going on 18, and whenever they are telling other people, this person is like, I'm a senior now, very, very senior. Enough respect to the elders.
Yes.
And whenever they're telling the people about when that child born, she was 20 odd when it born.
Oh, wow.
One day my ad was to keep on my mouth because sometimes we were ourselves going through our youth years so wild ourselves, so struggling to find our way, so that when we reach where we are now, we want to protect them.
But then why do we put on this facade though?
Because we want to, sometimes, as I say, I think it's about protection sometimes. You don't want your child to travel the route you did. So you can't even make them think that you were in that path, because somehow we think they may want to emulate, they think it's okay, and they may want to emulate us or model off us.
I hear you, but isn't that us
I feel shame.
making assumptions though?
Yes, a lot of assumptions.
About the way they will interpret. Because when I listened to the younger people earlier, for them, they would prefer us to be real.
Yes, yes.
So that they can feel a sense of being able to relate,
connect
with each other.
Yeah.
To say, okay, my mom has been through this.
Yes, yeah.
So this is my mom is a safe space.
She was 16 when she had me.
Yes. Or the leaders in the church, they would have slipped up here and there.
Yes.
So when I'm having issues, I can go to them.
And then they smoke ganja and then they smoke cigarette, hide behind the kitchen and smoke cigarette.
Exactly so.
And steam. But the shame is also huge. The shame is huge.
Shame is a factor.
Yes, and certainly in terms of sexuality, church and religion, not just Christianity, has had a huge issue with sex and sexuality. So there's a lot of shame around that. But also definitely the sense that a person will look down on me if they don't think. And sometimes we want to forget.
Yeah.
Sometimes
yes.
we want
There's
to forget.
that too.
Yeah, we can't bear the
Yes.
pain
Yes.
of remembering. Say when we was a young, when I was a young person, I was getting beating by them father. They don't even know that I know what it is to get thumped in my mouth. As,
Yes,
you know,
and so
they might
on.
think that. So even if you may be aware that your Christian young person in your care is being abused by someone, you're going to tell them, say, let's pray about it. You know, it's okay. You must
Which
stay
is
together.
dangerous, though.
Dangerous.
Because
Yeah.
as they said earlier, outside
Yes.
they're finding the answers.
Yes, and so exciting. It's so
The
exciting.
negative influences
Yes,
there,
yeah.
providing for them the answers
Yes.
that we
Yes.
are not providing out of whether
Yes.
shame or
Yeah.
you know
Or
wanting-
denial. Yeah.
or just wanting to present ourselves as perfect.
The interesting thing, though, and the good news is that I think there are communities, Christian communities, where the young people are on fire.
Oh yes.
There are Christian communities
Oh,
where the young
yes.
people are very clear about the path that they're choosing. I think they're worthy of research, is worthy of trying to find out what the thing is. The challenge I found with some of these spaces is that it's as if the leadership has had to be very didactic. It's like them have to like spell it out and them have to walk the rigid path. And so when the young person broke away, it's really horrible what may happen. But there are spaces. I'm a product of the ISCF movement at the university. And I remember the passion and the pride we took in being a part of the communities. And yet, some of us I know would have a challenge really fitting into the churches
Yes.
where we were. But we
Yes.
were excited about movements and spaces like that. So
And this provided the support.
yes, and the modeling.
The
The
modeling.
modeling,
Yes.
the young man spoke about not having the young men who could guide him. And there's definitely a dearth.
Oh,
the
yes.
man
My God.
shortage, terrible.
Yeah.
So it is, I think, so important to recognize, though, that the energy and the fire is there. But as you say, you want it to be normalized. We don't want it to be the extra special thing out there. Every congregation wants to have a space where the young people feel at home
And safe.
and safe. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. The challenge now, I'm glad you mentioned the word safe. The challenge is, again, a level of honesty that we will need to be able to get to know our teams and our leadership enough to know that sometimes the very ones who we're putting to guide our young people can be exploiting them and be
God.
abusing them, because that is
Yes.
now coming out in
And
the press.
How often have we seen this?
Yes, and not just the girls, even though the girls tend to be
prevalent, yeah.
but the boys as well. So there needs to be much more scrutiny and much more responsibility in terms of being aware of who we are together as a church community. And no, say, as somebody said, the church is a hospital for sinners, not a museum for saints. So the people when we come to the church door are battered, broken, popped down people.
Yes.
No matter how we look good, we smell good,
Exactly. We are all here seeking.
we look awesome. Yes.
We're seeking.
Yes.
Right.
So sometimes we have to be so careful. There's a book, another author called Scott Peck. Dr. Scott Peck is a
Okay.
psychiatrist. He became a Christian as an adult.
Okay.
I think he aligned with the traditional churches. And he has a book called The Road Less Traveled,
Yes,
which
I've
is
heard
more
of that
popular.
book.
It's a thesis on love. But he has a book called The People of the Lie, which is a thesis on evil.
Okay.
And he spoke about how evil hides best in the open, and especially in spiritual spaces and religious communities.
So true.
Yeah. And it's so invidious. Just a fancy word, guys, to mean it's so wicked and bad. And so even as we are anxious to provide the mentorship, the caring, the partnerships with our young people, we want to be aware and careful
Yes.
about the adults we let loose upon them.
Because many of them are pedophiles, and
Yes.
they use the church as an access
As an
through
access
which
point,
to get to.
because you build
Yeah.
trust, and you have the thing called sexual grooming as a gender person, as one of the things
Yes.
to build the trust. But we here are talking about the sincere, genuine, good people them who really want to help. Yeah. So we have to check ourselves.
Yeah, we have to.
We have to tune in and check in and be honest and seek help.
Yes.
seek the help. Because apart from the learning, when I said again, listen, learn, I had a L for lean on others.
Yes.
So those of us who want to be supportive to young people, we now have to make sure that we're leaning on somebody else.
Yes.
And not the young person. Not somebody who is at a lesser place than we are.
Right.
But another adult
that can
who can
help
and be like a monitor for us.
Right.
Yeah? Because inside of each of us is good and evil.
Exactly.
We know. Somebody said it is not the moment you baptize is not when you just purify instantly.
It's a process.
It's a process. It's a process. Yeah.
Yes.
So a lot happening here, but always recognizing that the other L, the light is here, because Jesus not promised him going to lead us into all truth.
Amen.
Didn't he promise that?
Yes, he did.
So despite the presence of the evil one, another L, the lion, looking who to devour, the light is here. The light is here in your program. The light is here in the young people saying, we want to be helped.
Yes.
We need you. The light is here in the adults who say, I want to help. I'm even listening to your program, because they could have turned it off and decided, saying, oh, what are them people they're talking about?
Exactly.
They are listening. And the very act of tuning in to the program says, I want to learn.
That's the word that came to my mind when you were talking.
Yes.
Another L, learn.
Yes, I want to learn. Show me how.
Yes.
Teach me. Give me the tools. Let me go out there and know, so when I go through my church door, I'm just a soldier equipped for the battle.
Yes.
Yeah? So that I can be there as a model for my young person. Because leadership, back to this John C. Maxwell gentleman, he was a pastor, by the way, before he became a big trainer.
Yes.
He says leadership is really about influence.
Oh, yes.
Which is what the young people were talking about.
Yeah.
And in that influence, there has to be the authenticity. Big word for, you have to just keep it real. Make the young people them see the warts and allow them to know that the wart didn't stop you from becoming this person they can look up to.
So that when they themselves get a wart, they don't give up and say, well, I'm doomed. Woe is me, for I am undone.
Yes.
You know, there is hope, because I can look at this person who has been there.
Yeah. So when we get hooked on the social media themselves, I had to take Facebook off of my phone, you know. Me was there scrolling, and me an old lady, and me have all the learning and knowledge. I was there like hooked. I couldn't stop. And then as they say, as you finish one thing, so the other one pops up.
Right.
So let them be aware that, hey, this is something I'm strong with, but I'm getting help with this. Yeah. And as the young man said, I might not be the one to be able to help you with so and so, but I know somebody. Maybe the person helping me could help you. Yeah. Or, you know, I am having to get some help with my relationships. Yeah. So I might not be the best one to guide you when you tell me you're struggling with a boyfriend or girlfriend issue, or worse, with my sexual identity. Oh my gosh. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's happening to me. I'm not sure who I'm being attracted to. I may not be the best person to guide you. Right. But I'm so glad you could come. So the trick is how to build that friendship and connection.
That family.
Me tell me, I love it. Me go back to the term what the young lady used. It was, what was she called again? Her
bonus family.
Her bonus family.
Bonus family.
To be privileged enough to be a member of the bonus family.
And family members are vulnerable with each other.
Yes, they spoke about that.
Yes, you know the scars. You know me when I take off the collar.
Yes. I want to take off the church, the choir. You wear, I don't know if you wear a thing with your choir people, them or whatever. Yes, you know, so, or your usher pin.
Right. So we need to get back to that.
Yes.
Of a safe space.
Yes.
Where we are vulnerable, where we are able to be real with each other.
Yes.
The older generation saying, hey, I don't have all the answers, you know.
Yes.
But I'm willing to learn.
Yes. Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
And I'm willing to hear from you.
Yes.
What you are saying.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to be taught by you.
Yes.
Because I know that you have information that I don't have and I don't understand.
Huge challenge though, as John Maxwell again points out, and I think, I mean, says Jesus was our ultimate leader. I mean, talk about maximum leader. is being able to have the results, because the young people are looking for results
Yes.
in our lives, which is why sometimes maybe we fall back on just doctrine
Because we don't have much to show.
So they really, the sort of leadership and the authority comes not from the position we have, but the results. So them looking, and here's what I have been learning painfully. When I don't have the results, I have to acknowledge it.
Yes.
I have to say I'm striving. I'm striving. And when I make the mistakes, I must speak out. Because as a leader, when you fail, when we make a mistake, or when we do something intentionally evil, but we know it's wrong, we have to acknowledge it.
Yes.
The scriptures tell us the power of being Christian is to be able to admit, what they call it again, repent.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to admit
one
it.
With another. Yes.
Yeah, and repent means you turn the corner, you broke the corner.
Yes.
You have to, but you need help to do that. So sometimes it is being able to have the humility when people jump on you after you're done back them off to say, yeah, you're right.
You're right.
The challenge though is how do we treat with people when them do wrong? You gotta put them on the back bench, you gotta read them out, you gotta put them in the sermon, you know.
Which is what one of the young ladies said.
Yes.
The open shame.
The open shame.
The embarrassment.
Yes. Yeah.
You know.
So it's easy to when you slip, you just slide and go join the rest. And also I guess for church to be able to guide us in terms of how to apply, as the young man said, the principles. So can I really go to a party and be dancing and be happy and enjoy things? Can I respect boundaries in a space with others? Can I be the influencer in spaces where the people I was so proud of the young lady who said most of our connection them not Christian like her. In my life, that's how it's been.
Yeah.
For me.
I think that's the reality for almost all of us.
Yeah, because we are a minority. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
we'll always be outnumbered in any space we are in.
So you have to be tapping into something to boost you up so that we can be out there. I think I was so proud of her when she said so many of her friends were non-Christians, although for some churches that would be a problem. So they would get the challenge about that.
But then it begs the question, if all I'm doing is staying in my circle,
how do you influence?
How do you influence?
Yes. How do you be the wine in the new wineskin, or the water of life?
Exactly. So
flowing.
It means therefore that what we need to ensure that we're doing is developing our young people.
Yeah.
That when they enter a circle, they influence that circle.
And they're rooted, being rooted
and they're rooted in the faith.
Yes.
And the principles of the word of God.
Yes.
And so, you know, there's a statement in education where as teachers sometimes when we hear it's up like but it said, if the student has not learned,
you have not taught.
The teacher has not taught.
Yes, what a huge responsibility.
We should ensure that our children, wherever they are going out to, because we can't keep them in a bubble.
Yes.
That they are the influencers.
Yes.
They are grounded. And unfortunately, because we are so not knowing. Again, I don't want to say ignorance.
Yes. Lack of information.
Lack of even knowing the different categories of youth.
I mean,
lack of understanding the influence of social media to the extent that they are influenced, they are being influenced.
Yes. And
you know,
powerful.
all of these
powerful
realities that our young people face.
Yeah. Which means that we have to come to the counters. So we as church have to build up our social media.
Yes.
We have to find the rich members. We have to find the rich owners of companies who are Christian. We have to get them to pour the money so we can have this social media thing so the next thing that pops up is a Christian thing or something that helps you to apply it.
Right. Because one of them said that it's so much easier to find the secular influence
than the things with the Christian messages.
Than the things and who wants the search.
Yes.
I mean, young people want, it's a touch of a button.
Touch and
instant.
Go.
That's their reality.
That's the reality.
And we can sit down and say, oh, you're just impatient.
Yes.
That's their reality.
That's the reality.
We have to meet them where they are.
That's how youth ought to be.
Yes.
That's how they are the stages of life. I mean, those who do educational psychology, there are stages we go through,
Right.
and it's by default. So we somehow have to ensure we are aware of these
Yes.
stages, and then see how can we tailor the service we offer, the ministry, the worship service, so that we are aware that if we've been talking for the past hour, that we really should inject something
Yes,
into
because
it.
after 30 minutes,
It's not and it's not just the young people. I want to tell the young
Listen
people.
to
I'm not
me.
just, one time I got a lovely confession. I love this one. I was preaching a sermon once. It was my 4th sermon for the day, because we have a group of churches.
Yes.
And I heard somebody draw a snore.
Oh.
It was me. Me drop asleep in the pulpit. I was so exhausted. Or sitting with a member and nodding off.
Yes.
Nodding off.
Yes.
So we have to ensure that we are keeping a stride of the methods, the techniques available to us, the music. We have to begin to realize that it's not just devil music. We can't make Satan control up the nice
on.
dancehall music.
Exactly.
We have to realize that the rhythms are not inherently evil.
Exactly.
And how can we
it's
put
the
this in?
message that is and the spirit behind it.
Did you know that some of the hymns in the Anglican hymn book, which are like, them talk about boring your church, very exciting. Some of our hymns, they were tunes that were used in bars and in
Wow.
drinking saloons
Okay.
that were adapted and brought in and given religious words. So that can happen with our music.
Yes.
So the very tools that Satan is trying to co-opt and control, we can take back.
Yes, we can. And I'm glad you said take back.
Yes.
Because it belonged to us.
A God control everything.
Exactly.
A God the world, not the
Exactly.
world, friends. The teaching I got as a theologian, the world is not split in two. It's not. God is in charge of everything.
everything.
Evil
He's
is in
sovereign.
there, but it
Yes.
is not. Satan have half and God have half, and so it go. It's God run things.
Yes.
Yeah. And somehow we have to convey that to our young people,
Right.
that the toughness, the hardness of following Christ is actually also a part of the growth opportunity.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know no exercise class where the trainer make you just do like 2 push-ups. Or children who still
my.
at school, you not get to run around the field one
You have
time
to
and be team.
You have to work on
To
the
be a
muscles.
footballer,
Yes.
you have to do
You
whole
have
heap of
to- you
kicks.
put the work in, yes.
So I would love them to have a mindset that says the tougher it is, the stronger
more I'm
I'm
going to
being,
get out
the
of this.
stronger I'm being built. And the challenges can actually be exciting if you have a mindset that says, through the trials, God is creating a great warrior out of me.
Yeah, a masterpiece.
God is preparing me to become that old person. In the blink of an eye, you're going to be that old person
Yeah.
who will be there for a young person.
Yeah.
So the challenges are actually possibly an opportunity. Possibly. But it need the backup. It need the help.
Yes.
You need somebody in the church who you can jump on the phone or the WhatsApp
Yes.
or the iMessage and say, help, help. Me a dead oh.
And you have people with the skills set
Yes.
to meet those needs.
And if it's 2:00 in the morning, I think
Yes.
every congregation should have a helpline.
That's so
By the
true.
way, there are some helplines I've shared with you. I hope the program will
They
be able
will
to
be-
get it
they will
on.
be-
Yeah,
they will
but
be
I think
put on.
every congregation should strive to have a helpline, so that is not the pastor one or the youth minister one,
Yeah.
because they get burnt out too.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they do. And more you're seeing that happening.
And when we burn out, we do bad things.
Yes.
Yeah, we are more vulnerable.
Vulnerable.
when we get burnt
exactly.
out and stuff.
So we're
yeah.
talking about the need for investment
Yes.
by those who have the means.
And we have the means. Looking straight
And
into the
we
eye of
do.
somebody now, we have the means.
We have the means.
Yes, yes, we
Yes.
have it. We have it.
It makes no sense we
Yes.
sit down and lament
Yes,
and not become strategic. You
Yes.
used the word earlier.
yes.
We need to be
Yes.
strategic.
Yes. Identify the problem before it hit us.
Yes.
And have a
And
plan
put
to
in.
meet it.
Yes.
Jesus was very strategic.
Oh, yes.
Very strategic. Hey, look, listen, man. God prepared his son for 30 odd years, you know. And then he was in the wilderness there, do more studies, you know. And then them send the bad guy after him, and him come out strong, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, and he had 3 years only. Some of us have a lifetime.
And look how,
Yeah, a lifetime. Although the young people now may not have that statistic, but it's showing us now that 20s is actually the lifespan of some young people in Jamaica.
Yes,
Only
it
the
is.
20s.
Yeah.
So as church, we may not
Yeah.
have much time with some of these
Exactly.
groups that I have spoken
And that's
about.
another reality
Yes.
that we need to acknowledge.
Yes. Yes. We don't have much time with some
We
of the
don't
young
have
people.
much
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah.
these are the young
Yes.
people who need us the most.
Yes, and so we can be equipping some of the 1 or 2 young people who come amongst us. We can be equipping them to reconnect back now with the whole heap out there who will never come into the church. Yeah, they might go to a street meeting, but they're not going to come in because they don't feel good enough.
And we see this exemplified in even Jesus' choice of disciples.
Look at us scruffy gang.
Hello.
I mean, he could have done better than that, couldn't he?
Come on, you know.
Yeah.
But each of them had their
Yes.
sphere of influence.
Yes, yes. Yeah, but his uptown friends, remember Nicodemus would have been an uptown friend. He was a big thing. At night time, him come creep by and because him never want to identify with him.
Exactly.
But it was a scruffy lot.
Yes.
Which is why it is not so posh to be Christian. And the young man raised a good point in terms of gender too. It's not macho to be a church person, although the Adventists and the Mormons have a huge male population, and the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, which is not a Rasta church. Ethiopian Orthodox is Christian. Their male population is huge, but they unfortunately tend to have a strong, another big word, patriarchal.
Yes.
So the man has to be in charge.
Yes,
he has
the
to
head
lead.
and all
The
of
ladies
that.
must do the tea and clean the place and stuff.
So they go from one extreme to another.
Yes, to the other. But we have to recognize that the few young people come in the midst, we have to do like you doing here. We have to tailor things for them.
Yeah.
We have to go to the way and make it a priority, and our budget has to show that. So when the collection is taken up and the budget is made for the church, we have to make sure so the youth budget is as big as the building fund.
Exactly.
Because the building fund is to make sure you have a place, but the
Yes.
youth is to make sure you have a future.
Yeah, exactly. So the priority has to be there.
And I'm preaching to myself because I serve on the committee of my church, and our youth budget is not fat.
And it is an indictment on us, isn't it?
It is.
It shows the lack of understanding.
And it's going to kick us in the face.
The young man said, you can't have success without successors.
I loved it. That was a gem. That was a nugget.
Yes. And
No
the Gamaliel
success.
and the Paul,
Yes.
where
Yeah.
they are gleaning
Yeah.
from
Timothy.
us.
Timothy was a youngster.
Yes, yes.
Enough young people in the Bible now. If you
Yes.
do Bible studies around youth, enough of them were youngsters.
But they had to have been centered
yeah.
and groomed
Yes.
by
Yeah. And you have to catch it. You see, like how the bad people, the sexual predators groom you, then buy your KFC and then buy your
Yes.
Burger King and then
Yeah.
pay your school fee. It's so church now have to, what was it the scripture says? You be like, you learn from there's a scripture about how, like the snakes, you learn from the bad people, the good, you take the good and learn from them. I must look up that scripture passage.
Yeah.
So the grooming
that speaks about how they are wiser than us.
Yes. The grooming that these people do, we need to do it from Sunday school, from the youth fellowship. Just
There's a
what you
word
do.
that we have demonized, but I think we need to take back.
Yes.
Indoctrination.
Yes.
We
Yes.
need to take back that word.
Yes, absolutely.
You hear when you read Old Testament scripture, you hear the God is instructing the parents.
Write it for your forehead. Put it upon your
Listen.
forehead. Put it upon your doorpost.
Yes. Indoctrinate them into
Yes, upon your
the
heart.
hearts.
Study the scripture verse by heart.
By heart. But by the time they reach a certain age, they should know the word.
Yes.
So we
Make songs, popular songs with it.
But we have, I was speaking to a young man the other day. Young people, especially males, with their video games.
Yes.
And my sons, I have all sons.
My 2 sons
I mean,
too.
the constant video games, and they're on
Love
that.
it. Yes.
And I was saying to him, where are the video games about the warriors of the Bible? Where is David and Gideon?
Investments.
Because you hear them shooting and you hear them doing all kind of things.
My grandson have every shooting game, and when we talk to him about it, he say, "Well, I'm gonna be the good guy." number 5.
It goes back to us utilizing, taking the things that the world is using those as tools.
Yes, yeah. In this conversation about youth and the ministry to youth, I challenge the people with money in our land.
Yes.
I challenge the people with the businesses, with the resources to recognize that when you invest in the church youth them, you are investing in the nation's survival.
Exactly.
Yeah? Because, and we don't have to wait for them to be big gunman and then have this Paul strike down with lightning and then them coming to church. No, we have to start from little. The video games that give the gospel, music that is about the gospel, T-shirts.
Yes.
I mean, we see T-shirts with the F word. We want to see T-shirts with the faith word.
Exactly.
Yes?
The repeated message, the indoctrinating. Yes. And as they say, when they go on social media, the world is force feeding it to them. We would have heard, I think it was Warrell who spoke of the fact that their parents need to engage them more.
Yes. Yeah.
With Bible reading and prayer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we did before we met here today, we did a survey.
Yes.
We sent out a survey of questions.
Yes.
Asking the young adults and the adolescents what their experience is.
Yes.
And the majority to the question of parental involvement and engaging them in the home, prayer time and Bible. Majority of them said that this is not being done.
Yes, yeah. I can attest to that, because when I, as a young mother, in my 30s with my 2 sons, and I was a single mother by then, I had left their dad, my marriage broke up. I remember times when I indeed used to bring them together, but I also remember times when I stopped. Yes, I stopped, and I can't even think what caused that and why I didn't pick it up back. Yes, them would have long out their face and them not excited, but I heard one of the young people saying how this was a norm she grew up with. But our young parents now would need a lot of support, and the grandparents who are growing the children. So we need, again, the congregation, the leadership in the programming can be targeted in saying, this is how you do it.
Teaching the parents.
And when they long up them out, this is how you're going to approach it. Because I used to now begin to get aggressive with the children.
Which is not the best
I used to haul the covers off them to go to, and it's not. Me too. So it gets the resistance.
Right.
So we, again, can provide resources and supports, get the
parents.
Psychologist help in knowing how do you deal with it, what do you do, how long do you make it, and stuff. We need help.
We need to, the older generation, we need to be taught.
And to tell us to do it.
To do it. Because we get so busy, right?
Yes. We don't sit at dining table anymore.
As to that.
Do it.
The dining table has become a thing of the past.
And turn off the TV while
and put away the cell phone and let us gather at the table and talk.
Yeah, that was a fight for me when I was going. It was a fight. But I fought. I actually gave away the TV set at one time. Things got so bad and I felt so desperate. I literally gave away the television. My kids didn't grow up with a TV, but they knew every song and every show. Cause when I go to school, I had no control.
Have access, believe me.
So now we can't use that. The parents can't use that. They don't give away the TV.
No.
Yes. So we need help to know how to do that. And I would say, yes, we also have to be told to do it.
To do it.
Yes, yeah.
Because sometimes we think that the fact that I put a roof over your head, I'm clothing you, you have food on the table. That should be enough for you to understand and to know. But it also requires us engaging in their lives, taking the time to say, what's happening?
Yes, and not just even the tone. We have to be taught what is the tone to use and how to deal with it when again they're putting along with their mouth or stuff, and how to deal with the resistance. I remember phoning up one of my male friends, a minister, and literally crying on the phone because my child only eat vegetables. And he said, I'm a big man, I don't eat vegetables, leave the pitney alone, he'll come to it. But in terms of like the spiritual things and the reading of the scriptures, and just being able to have help to journey with them. We need a lot of help as parents and grandparents,
because
caregivers, and we have to remember that institutions are also parents, based on what I read. So the house mothers and the places where the men are partners, those are targets for our churches, by the way, in terms of change. Sometimes they are members of our congregations.
Because you find that generally a lot of people who tend to do that kind of work are Christian
They
people.
tend to be.
They tend to be Christian who have a desire to give back.
And I think the interviewing process gives them an edge. I think people listen out and hoping that to make them have good values
to the organization. So yes, the church definitely has a role in helping to guide not just the young, but the older generation.
The equipping. Jesus spent a lot of time equipping those apostles.
Yes, he did.
We don't get the details, but he would have spent a lot of time. And it would, because if you notice, like sometimes when the parables are told, you get the picture of how he had a little time with them afterwards, sort of breaking it down for them because they never quite get it. The equipping. So our conversation about youth and adults and our receptivity is also a conversation about equipping those of us who are privileged to be their bonus family.
and you know, the issues that affects the younger, the sex, the sexuality,
social media,
atheism, drugs, witchcraft, which is pervasive.
I didn't even
in
realize
the television shows.
I didn't realize that, because I am one of those guilty. I'm not looking. You see, we don't expose ourselves
to it,
and we have to.
We need to. How can we minister to them if we are ignorant?
Because it was a terrible thing for me to give her the TV cut me, so I had no idea what was going on.
Right.
You realize that?
Exactly.
Yeah. So we now need the protection so we can we can learn back to learning. How do we learn and not expose ourselves?
Exactly. That's impossible.
So it means church again may have to take on doing some teaching. Because on everything you really have to experience personally in order to learn from it.
And it's not just about Bible and prayer. You would have heard our young people saying, sometimes you don't want to hear no scripture.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to talk about sex. I want to talk about my sexuality. I have friends who are saying there is no God. Atheism. How do I respond to that?
Agnosticism, or there is a God, but that God is not interested in me.
Exactly. Friends who are cutting themselves. Suicidal.
Mental challenges.
How do I address that? So as parents, I mean, who has the greater responsibility? The church or the parents?
Interesting. I'm going to draw back to the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Looking back here on the convention, which speaks, I think, something about protecting the best interest of the child. Protecting the best interest of each child is the main underlying principle of the convention. For many, it's considered the heart of the convention. It helps to guide individuals and agencies in the process of making important decisions about the welfare of each child. And I think what it emphasizes here is the responsibility of both the private and the public.
Okay.
Yeah, a partnership. A partnership.
Okay.
Yes, it speaks about the home, the parents, the guardians, but it also challenges the government to provide a safe and healthy alternative. Because if the parent is not equipped, then there's the teacher at school, the pastor at church, the man on the corner, the vendor in the market, the bus driver.
The village.
And the African concept is so powerful. The African concept where it wasn't just a private affair to grow children. The Western world with its wealth
influence
has now led the prevailing ideas of how to make family. African life and the Asians too, the Chinese.
There are some values,
it was that is together we had to do it. Together we had to do it. So I would say it has to be a partnership. Home and school, as a teacher, the home, PTA, village
and yard, because sometimes it's the village have to watch the picnic or the mother gone work.
Yes.
She don't just go on a party, she go on work.
Exactly.
And there's no man.
Right.
Or the man want to have the picnic them.
Right.
I always remember the father of the young lady who is still missing. She was blind. Jasmine.
Oh, yes.
I always remember Jasmine's dad standing up by himself with his placard, asking, "Where is my daughter?" Because sometimes the man alone has a child. So the community has to have as much responsibility, and our state, which has signed onto this convention, has a lot of responsibility.
Yes.
Those of us who come to church, who are decision makers, who work in government agencies,
we
have to step up. We have to push up. Yes. Yeah. We have to translate the spiritual principles, the love your neighbor as yourself, into the workplace, into that little document you need to sign.
The policies.
So I'm picking it, don't have to be languishing in jail. That push you have to make as an investigator to keep looking for that child who is missing.
So our responsibility as Christians extends beyond the four walls of the church.
Absolutely.
And I've always found it, I don't know, disappointing.
Yes.
That a lot of times as Christians we do not position ourselves.
Yes.
Where the decisions are being made.
Yes. Or we don't enter into the position where God has placed us.
Exactly.
Yes. Especially if we don't love the work.
Exactly.
If the people that must trust me out on the job.
So decisions are being made which are anti-Christian belief.
Yes. Yeah.
And they are being forced upon our children.
Yes. Yes.
And it's almost as if our hands are tied because we are not positioned where we can actually make a difference and influence the change that we need to keep our young people grounded on the outside, beyond the four walls. And that
huge.
Again is another, I think, factor that we need to take into consideration as we look at why we're losing our young people. Why is it that we don't seem to have that impact that we need to? Maybe it could be that we're not positioned in places where we need to be to have the impact. And so the church is seen as becoming archaic.
In some countries in the world, the building is actually empty. There are beautiful cathedrals in the UK that are absolutely empty, just the clergy persons.
And I think also something that I've heard several churches complaining about since COVID.
Yes, oh Lord.
And having been forced to go online.
Yes.
The congregation has dwindled down.
We have experienced that in my congregation.
So that in and of itself is another weakening.
You are perfectly right. It opened another little vein open for the hemorrhage.
For the hemorrhage.
Yes, and because we noticed that as the older ones creep back out, you have to literally call up a family and say, bring your young person out. We tend to have our middle class youngsters who come in cars, they don't come by themselves. So you have to target them and come out. So indeed, the loss is significant. So interesting as you spoke about the loss of the young people and why we're not keeping them. I twin it actually though to the loss of the adults because even as we speak about the influence that we need to have, there is a significant part of the population that we are not reaching. We're not reaching our academics, we're not reaching some of our professionals, and so it's not just the inner city, but there's a huge set of decision makers, very powerful people who may actually be beneficiaries. No, not beneficiaries. They are like donors.
Right.
So they'll give.
The movers and the shakers.
Yes, they'll give and they'll support fundraisers and you can send tickets but we lose that set and that loss trickles back to the young people
who are demanding a different type of ministry that requires people who are of that mindset and ability and skill sets. So if we're having a deficit there,
it is almost natural. I mean, if you do the maths.
Yes,
and so the conversation is a complex one, even though it may seem simple. Just, we need to rev up the things we're doing. We need to use different things, get our young people, have young people ministry, understand young people, listen to them. It gets a little more complex. if you are serious about getting to the root.
Right.
You know, in strategic planning, you talk about root causes, you talk about the presenting problems and the deeper issues. And it tends to come back around to the adults.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, who were young people
it's
at
our
one time.
responsibility when all is said and done.
So whether it's the private adult in the home, or the adult who heads up an institution, or the adults who are the decision makers in policies and programs, it has to be a partnership. Yeah.
Okay, so we have been looking at the steps that we need to take in ensuring that the support is there and that we are meeting the needs of the younger generation, even in looking at ourselves and seeing where we need to shore up.
Yes.
Right. Can you suggest any strategies that Christian parents can utilize in order to become knowledgeable? What do? We already have acknowledged that we don't know enough.
Yes.
What are some practical things that we can really do to gain the knowledge that we need to be able to meet the needs?
One simple thing I would start with, which was very hard for me, family meetings.
Oh, Lord.
You know what time we try with it?
Yeah.
But I'm speaking now I'm in a situation now where, as a mature person, I'm just learning how to build a business for myself so that I can have some independence, so I won't be a burden on my kids.
Yes.
And we speak about the need to have meetings. We do it with the church as an organization.
Yes.
We do it at our workplace, and we hate those staff meetings. But family meetings is a very important. Even if it's you one-on-one child.
Yeah.
It's very challenging though, and so I would say you can draw on those who have jobs. You can draw on your experience of a job. You have to have a little agenda, and little categories: spiritual, money, chores. And big things now, like who you want to become.
The goals.
Goals, thank you. So you have your objective and you have your little plan. So a family meeting, and it's tough. So maybe just start with one every 3 months. Then you can boil down to maybe one a month. If you can even do one for the year, maybe it could be on a birthday. Maybe when you move to the place, maybe if you're renting somewhere, maybe when you moved. Maybe if you own your own place, maybe it's when you bought the place. You could maybe set a date, but set it as a target. If there are 2 adults in the house, with a mother and a grandmother or an uncle or something, the 2 big people can talk about it first, because you need backup. If it's you one, you're up on your own. Sorry. And then say to the children that we want to have a family meeting. And yes, some will long up their mouth, but some might find it exciting.
And eventually they'll see the value of it, won't they?
Yes, I think so, because you're also modeling something they can use for their own families.
Right.
So you can have agreements on and have goals that the family will set and vision. Create a little dream board for the family. Put up cartridge paper upon the fridge door or on a wall, and have each family member say what things that they would want to achieve and become. Another very practical thing I would say is ensure that as an adult you are in some learning program.
Yes.
So you enroll yourself, whether it's a church study group, or they have online things now, or go online and Google parenting. Yes, Google parent. We don't born with it, you know. You have to learn.
We have to learn it along the way.
I don't even know if I brought it. There was an organization called the Coalition for Parents, which hired me once to create some manuals. And they're beautiful. So there's literature out there
that we can utilize.
Yes, so enroll yourself in a course. Or if you set a time in your very busy schedule, or if you're not working and you're job hunting, put a little time for that.
Yes, to develop yourself as a parent.
Yes, because as a human being, because you have to have something to give to others.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yes, the Bible study, but also just as a parent.
Self-development.
Have a personal development plan. Have a personal development plan, and then you're going to need somebody now who going to help you monitor that or check that. If you have a good relationship with your pastor, make your pastor more work. It could be that person, or it could be could be a friend who you respect, but not a friend who always come to you, bawl and complain and gripe. Somebody who is ahead of you.
Yes.
So have somebody who you partner with. They say if you journey alone, you'd go fast. But if you journey with somebody, you go longer.
Yes.
You go further.
Yes.
So have somebody. So you're developing yourself. And I would say to ensure you have someone like a mentor or a coach. If you don't know what that is, you have sense, man. Go and go Google it. But this is somebody.
Information age.
Yes, this is somebody who is ahead of you.
Yes.
Somebody who has some results you want in your life. So when you look at how them parent them children,
Yes.
you like what you see. Them not complain or the pitting them and get them trouble.
Right.
Also, somebody who is doing financially well. I think
Yes.
each of us needs to have at least one person in our life. If you are the person doing financially well, awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're going to look for somebody who is doing well in their relationships.
Right.
If you're already making good money.
That you can learn from.
Have
and
a
emulate.
coach or mentor.
Yes.
Approach somebody if you don't have that person. Say, I would like you to be my mentor or
yes.
coach. Very, very successful people in the world do. I think Jesus did. I think, people forget that Jesus spent up to, I think, maybe 13 or so years in Egypt, in Africa. Where they had a lot of cultural and educational exposure. We don't know who was the adult in his life.
Right.
Yeah, he had a lot of respect for Joseph. I think if you read the scriptures,
Yeah.
so have somebody who you look up to. Set it as a goal for yourself.
Yes.
In terms of have a good relationship with the children's school. If they are in school.
Yes.
I used to be a guidance counselor, and I treasured parents who would make contact with me.
Yes.
Find out who the guidance counselor is, get his or her phone number. If they're worth their sauce, they will have a number that they can give you.
Yes.
Yeah, separate from your pastor. Build a relationship with the school. If
the
your child
caregivers
is
of
a
your
young
children.
adult who is working, have a contact with somebody at that workplace who is maybe their supervisor.
Right.
Very, very useful. Very few people think of doing this. Have a connection. Let the workplace know you. Find some way
Yes.
to ensure that whoever supervises or manages your child or young adult knows you. And this one I think is a biggie. Have phone numbers for their friends.
Important. Very
Have
important.
phone numbers for their friends. If they go missing, you know who you can call. Because
yes.
your child can be the best person in the world. They can go missing.
That's true.
They can go missing.
Yes.
Have phone contacts for a person. And when this one is tricky, communication, tricky. You don't want your young person to feel that you're tracking them or monitoring them. But there has to be a system in your home, if they live with you, that you are aware of their movement and that they are aware of yours.
Exactly.
Now, if you are going with chicken in the business and if you are doing underhand things or undercover things, that is bigger than my peer grade.
Right.
That's complex, yes? But there should be a communication system that, like for example, coming here this morning, I didn't ask about the location, so my family doesn't know. That's a no-no in our house.
That's a no-no, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you need to have a communication plan in your house, if are you and one other.
Yes.
Yeah. If you don't live with the children, but you still have responsibility, because Jamaica have all sorts of arrangements around family. It still makes sense to try and have this information if the child doesn't live with you or the young adult. When they get past 18 or when them start work, some of them find it a little thing.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. You still say you do it out of love.
And it goes back to the communication, because if they understand the rationale behind it, I'm sure they will understand that this is care.
Yes.
This is care.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
So we would have explored the issues, the challenges, and we are closing now, just looking on the way forward, the steps we can take to build back that bond with our children. And
have emergency numbers. Have emergency numbers on your fridge door.
Yes.
Not just in your phone. The phone can pop down and the battery dead. On your fridge door.
Yeah, that's a very important one. Well, you have heard it. We have discussed quite a lot. The time is never enough for us to explore the information. But what is important is that we have taken the first step. And so the discussion will continue.
Yes.
It has to continue.
Thank you.
And it is my hope that as you view this program, that you will begin the discussion in your own family, in your own home, in your own space, in your own church. And that we will go back to the drawing board with a more strategic approach at how it is that we are reaching out to and ministering to and engaging our younger generation. They are important to us. Without our younger generation, we have no successors. And so, Ms. Phillips, I want to thank you. My God, I am so happy that you were able to be with us today. I wish I could just sit down and just talk to you for the rest of the day, because there is just so much.
My husband would have find you.
But I am sure that we will have opportunity again to sit together again and talk about another important topic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you on behalf of the Potter's Hands Women's Ministry of NETA. I thank you so much for your contribution, your valuable contribution to the discussion today.
Most welcome. Thank you so much. You give me hope. I have hope. Tons of hope. My heart full for Jamaica.
God.
Not just for the young people, for Jamaica, this nation.
Yes.
Thank you for making church real and practical.
Thank you.
New Ebenezer Tabernacle Apostolic,
where everyone is a minister and love is real.